hitting it now.
Okay.
Okay.
Too late.
We're live. And this is the bit that I always pause because I have to hit buttons. And it's always a bit awkward.
Yeah.
But here we go. I'm just going to share it one more time. Where is it? Share. I'm going to share it to my page. There we go. And I'd just like to welcome everybody because it's 2 o'clock to the What's On It Elephant and Castle Facebook page. My name is Nick from Retribe. Over in Toronto is Melissa. Melissa, hello.
Hello, hello.
And joining us is Carolyn Zimba, who's going to come along and talk to us today about her organization, Empowered Alignment. Carolyn, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I guess if I talk about empowered alignment, what does that mean? Because most people will question what that is and they don't quite get it. I'm a firm believer that it's important to be balanced and to be functioning as an optimized human being. And so looking around that, if you think about, say, your mental health and your physical health, they are intrinsically connected. And so what I work around is to help people to process any trauma they've got in their system, to help them to heal. I think I look at it on the basis of you hold your trauma in yourself. And so when I create this, when I get people to move and get them to flow and have different sequences for them, it helps them to, I suppose it gives them space to be able to open up, and then whatever trauma is sitting in there is able to process out of their system, and then they are able to kind of move forward and function in a much more aligned way.
Yeah. So simple, so powerful.
I'd like to talk, as we go on, I'd like to talk a little bit more about what you put on up on your website about, you know, how we're coming out of lockdown. But first of all, can you kind of describe your journey from sitting behind a desk, as you talked about, for 18 years and how that brought you to where you are now?
Yeah, so, gosh, how can I put it? 18 years, I guess I went to university and I studied engineering of all things. And I'm obviously doing something completely different now. But at the same time, it kind of makes sense because I love solutions. I love finding solutions to problems and figuring out how things work. And so when I look at a body, it's like, okay, what's the problem? What do we need to sort out? How do we need to fix this? And where is the issue? And, you know, when I look at how people's bodies move in terms of the mechanics of it, you know, does this arm move here? Does this leg do that? Okay, wait, that's not quite moving the way it's supposed to. What's going on? And so, you know, that was a few years back at university, and, you know, first job, I think working as a sort of, I think it was a continuous improvement assistant. And I guess from then, from the age of 20, right the way through until I think late 30s, I've spent at a desk. When you sit down and think about it, and actually it's probably even more than 18 years. Because if you think at school, you're sitting at a desk, you know, and then you sit at a desk at college and university all the way through. And so all the jobs I was doing, I was sat at a desk. And at 25, I used to be quite sporty anyway. And at 25, I took my first yoga class. And fast forward 16 years, I'd been practicing quite a while. And then I'd say fast forward 10 years. After 10 years, I decided I was going to do my teacher training. So that's what I did. I did a 200-hour. And then 3 years later, I did a 500-hour, which is like 10 hours a day, 7 days, 6 days a week for 10 weeks. So it was intense. In fact, was it 10 weeks? I think it was 12 weeks. So it was pretty intense. And what I realized through my journey of teaching was that what I do is actually yoga. So if somebody were to sort of look at my credentials, they think, oh, she's a yoga teacher. I'm like, no, I'm not. Because what I do is a little bit deeper than that. And so I guess through lots of different modalities, apart from the yoga, you know, personal training, you know, I used to do capoeira, you know, at school we played hockey, football, swimming. So all the different kind of movement modalities that you could possibly do, kickboxing, judo. And so all of that it's about the movement. Well, I connect with people through movement. If I see someone sitting really still, I can't read them. But as soon as I start moving, I'm like, oh, okay, I get you now. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so from going from that time through the whole time, I remember I was, doing all these office jobs, working, sitting at a desk. And I think the very last desk job that I did, that was it for me. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I complained. I think I was there about 9 months, and I kid you not, I complained every single day because I'd wake up in the morning, my back would be sore. I would literally creak out of bed. My hips would be sore. I'd be sitting at my desk and I would stand up and I'd be like, oh my gosh, you'd hear clicking, cracking. I was always in some sort of pain, and it just made no sense to me because as a human being, we're not built like that. We're built to move, we're built to flow. We're not built to sit at a desk for 8 hours a day. So I just decided that I'm not doing this anymore. And it's a case of now really sharing what I've learned with other people to help them to feel better, to move more, and just to not be in pain, because a lot of times people are in pain and they accept it. And they accept it. And when you ask someone, how long have you had this? And like, oh, it's been a few months, a few years, it's been a while. And you think, why are you putting up with this? This is not how you were created.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It seems like the body. Sorry, Nick. Did you want to? I forget what role we're doing. I don't know.
It's your turn. It's your turn.
Is it my turn? Okay, cool.
We try to alternate, but it never happens.
I mean, I can't follow these guidelines of one after another. But I wanted to talk to you a bit more about the wisdom of our body, because I know for me, I think I shared this with you, but like for me, when I was 21, my body just stopped working on me. I was paralyzed just after years of so much unrepressed or undealt with trauma. And my brain and my spirit, my heart weren't in a place to be able to hold that and process that. So my body was like, honey, I'm going to do it for you. And we're just going to stop working. And it was just until I gave myself permission to listen to my body. Well, I was forced to listen to my body. Then I was able to do the other kind of bits of work and the other pieces, like and other like parts of the circle. So it seems like I'm reading this right, but I hope I'm reading this right. But for you, the work is allowing one to reconnect with the wisdom of their body and then bring that kind of all together with all the other elements of their life, right? Yes?
Exactly. I think that there is, I guess I'm just trying to think. There's so many different ways I could go with this. In terms of the body, it's always healing. That's what it does. You cut yourself. That doesn't stay in an open wound. It starts to heal and it seals itself up, because that's what it does. It loves you and it's there. It wants to be this, it wants to be this wonderful piece of, I always say it's the wonderful piece of biological engineering. You've been blessed with this body and it has its function. And, it will start off with a little whisper and it's like, you know what, this does not quite feel right. It's like, you're sitting and you're not very comfortable, and the first thing, your breath maybe gets a little bit short and you're feeling like, the next thing, the shoulders start riding up. Then next, maybe you feel like, oh, there's that little kind of twinge just between your shoulder blades. And then maybe your lower back starts going, and then it becomes an everyday thing. And, then it gets worse and worse and worse. And then, it gets to where you got to, Melissa, which is not cool. And so it's about having a conversation with your body and really realizing that it's always communicating with you. So you understand, oh, yes, I need to look after this. I need to make sure I feed it right. I need to make sure I put it in safe, right situations. And one of the things I always think of is we are the sum accumulation of all of our experiences. And so it's not just about things that happen to you. It's kind of your choice, what you do, where you go, how much of your time you spend doing certain things, what you put in your body, who you're listening to, what you're listening to, when you're listening to, and how you're listening to. If you've got someone in your ear constantly, bad mouthing you, or even bad mouthing somebody else, those are negative vibrations that your body's picking up on. If you are spending time around people that actually don't feed you spiritually and you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't actually feel great here. If you're spending 20 hours a day sat on your computer games, you're going to, your body's going to tell you something at some point that I don't like this. And so it's really about being mindful of your whole, just, it's like an ecosystem. The whole thing is an ecosystem.
Right.
You said some things that really interest me, is that you were really athletic and you did a lot of sports. Now, I was kind of the same thing when I grew up, is that I played sports all year round. And being an athlete was part of my identity. And I think for a lot of people, when you were younger, so I think this conversation over the next little bit of time is going to be a lot of the link between, our higher consciousness, our spirit, and our body, and being able to listen to it.
Yeah.
When we're young and we're playing all these sports, no one tells us to start to listen to our consciousness. It's always about being brave, being tough, pushing through walls, and all that kind of really toxic masculine language. About being tough and being a real man. Like, how do you get people? So, like, I'm 49 years old and I've got those creaks, and I know I'm scheduled for a hip replacement, and I'm still in my, I'm still living in my head as a youngster, saying I can be tough and I can push through these, and it's to my detriment. How do you kind of work with people and say we've just spent the last month, Melissa's been doing workshops on becoming friends with ourselves. Yeah. And this is all about like softer language and caring for ourselves on a kind of a spiritual, higher consciousness level. But I have to relate that to my body through the things that I put into it, because I'm still not eating right. I'm still not exercising the way I should be. I know I should be doing all these things. I'm just having a hard time disconnecting from my old self to a 49-year-old man who's going to be 50 soon. And it's hard on our old ideas and our old identities. How do you kind of work around that?
So here's the thing I like to look at. It's like we all have different labels that we put on ourselves and all get thrown at us. You are who you are. You're a man, you're a woman, you're this, you're that, you're a sister, you're a brother, you're all of those things. They're different hats we wear, but that's not who we are. When you're born, you're this perfect little being. That, for you, your survival is you need to feed me, you need to clothe me, etc., etc. I need to make sure I'm warm. And you're pretty much pure. There's no kind of, how would I say it? There's no kind of ideas thrown at you in terms of what you're supposed to do. You haven't got any pressure to be a certain way. But, if you think, let me think. So there was this, I think it was a television advert that I saw. It was some sort of study they did. I can't quite remember, but they had a little baby. And now they dressed this baby up as a girl and they dressed this baby up as a boy. And then they had members of the public come in and see what their reaction was to this child. And so when it was the girl, they had all the toys and everything else. So, they could pick whatever they wanted. So it was the little girl, everyone went up and they're like, oh, hi, you're so cute. You're so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And, they went about and they, threw all these dollies at her, pink things. And, that's what you get. Then it was the boy's turn. And it was like, oh, you're so clever. You're so intelligent. And you're so this, you're so that. And, they started throwing like energy. I think it was like lots of mechanical stuff at the little boy. Turns out this baby was a little girl, but she loved both sets of toys. There was no kind of distinction. It was a case of, I am who I am, I do whatever. But it's almost like the minute you're given a particular sex, it's like you have to kind of assume the identity of a little girl who's pretty and whatever, or little boy. And then also with boys, I think there's a lot of pressure put on them because they're not actually allowed to be boys in terms of, crying their tears, feeling their emotions. I once watched this man on a TED talk, and he was talking about how he realized the way he was training his children, because he had his daughter who was crying, was really upset about something. He gave her plenty of space to cry. When it was his son, he was like, oh, stop crying, you're fine. It's like, and then he realized then that was really unfair, because that same son is going to grow up into an adult who's then not able to express his emotions, has all this pressure of, how do you be, what is the definition of being masculine? And so in my sessions, I had grown men cry, like literally bawling their eyes out, tears, and I'm like, let it out, let it out. Because what was his name? There was Dr. Maudsley. He said that the tears that we do not cry make the other organs weep. So that means everything that you're holding inside, it sits in you. So it's so important to not identify with, I guess it's important to identify with the fact that, you're a man, you're a woman, but also to know that deep down inside, you're this soul, and you're having this experience. You've got masculine energy inside of you, you've got feminine energy inside of you. But, there are so many things. A lot of people identify with their jobs. The minute they lose a job, then they forget who they are. The moment they're not in a relationship, they forget who they are. And I want people to really go beyond all of that and say, this is me. Yes, I've had my experiences. I am the sum accumulation of my experiences, but I'm okay to just say, okay, right here, right now, this is me. And it's okay. If I want to cry my tears, I'll cry my tears. And I'm not going to allow other people externally to put pressure on me. If you look at sort of the English language, I think the English language is a bit funny in terms of some of the wording. It's not really a beautiful language if you think about it. Mm-hmm. But if you think of the words within and without. So without implies that something's missing, right? That, there's something that you have to look out externally to yourself. But then if you stop and think, okay, if I just look within myself, all the answers you need, everything that you are, every essence of who you are is sitting right here, right inside of you, within you at any given moment. And you have to allow yourself that space to do that, rather than taking on what other people will try and force upon you. I think that's a very long.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
When you started talking, I don't know what it is, and I have no reason to cry, but I started to well up. I don't know what it is, and I don't know. I just felt very emotional with all of that.
But maybe you don't need a reason to cry, right? Maybe that's the whole point of the conversation, is that you can cry, and the reason might be from 20 years ago that's coming out now because you're feeling heard and safe. So maybe that's part of it. Yeah. I think sorry, go on. No, go on.
No,
it's going to be silent now.
No, it's just a really quick one. I was just going to say, I think it's sometimes we also look to other people for permission. And we don't need to. I love that saying, do it and then ask for permission after the fact. So I think it's like, don't ask for permission to feel, don't ask for permission to be who you are, because we all have a right to be here. We are all beautiful, amazing individual souls. We've been created, and we're supposed to be here on this earth. And whatever purpose we have, it's, we just have to be open to finding that, but trusting ourselves and not looking to other people to say, oh, what should I do? Where should I go? Give me permission to do this. And, it's allow yourself the space, So that was kind of all I was going to say.
Yeah. No, that idea of permission is the game changer, right? And if we even dig a bit deeper of what are we even asking permission really for? It's permission to, I think, to really be seen and accepted. That's what we're saying is look at me, please, somebody love me. And somehow we're taught, or we learn along the way, that we need, like you've been saying, this external validation for what we are innately born with, which is this, we're alive, and that's enough. That's the permission we need, right?
Yeah.
Nick, sorry, you were going to say something. I cut off.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say perhaps right now isn't a time where I can start bawling in front of everybody, but that was all. It was just going to be a quick joke, but
okay. I ruined your joke.
It's lost now.
Oh, I think that we all have to remember that we are loved. Yeah. People forget that, but we are loved. Always.
Yeah, I think that it is, and what I'm learning is that even if no one's around to tell you that they love you, or is that there is a journey to care for yourself and to ultimately love yourself.
Yeah.
And that's something that maybe that's why I'm feeling emotional, because I'm hearing people like yourself, people like Melissa guide me to this place where it's like, okay, you know what, it's okay to care for yourself and to give yourself permission to be loved. And that's ultimately about learning how to care for yourself. And I think, again, that's probably why I'm emotional, because I'm going through this change, you know, and it's a change that's been brought about through lockdown, you know, through just becoming, I don't know, just changing. But lockdowns definitely has given me a time to, I love what you said about looking within. You know, for so long, I was looking for exteriors, you know, the car, the job, the watch, the suit, the girl, you know, they were the things that made me who I was, apparently. And now, you know, this is the thing where I can look within and go, learning to meditate, you know, like it's been a practice of mine over the last few years, but to try different types of meditation, to, you know, to just Google some and just try some. And it's just been such an awakening, I think is the best way to put it, over the last few months. How have you been dealing with the lockdown?
I actually have really enjoyed the time off. It's given me a really nice opportunity to regroup, assess life, pivot a little bit. So I've had a lot of interesting ideas come through, which have been really lovely. And new opportunities as well. So for me, it's been really great. And it's just been really nice to rest. And so something for me that I realized was when I was teaching all my classes and running around London, you know, I got to a point where I thought I just wasn't paying enough attention to myself even. So as much as I'm teaching this as well, it's like, okay, it's always a learning. And I have to remind myself and say, you know what, Carolyn, take a moment. It's fine. You know, you're teaching all your students to take their time and give themselves space. So you have to do the same for yourself. So really just resting, sleeping lots, because I had 7 a.m. classes, which meant waking up at 5 in the morning, leave the house at 6, and then I wouldn't get home as well till like 10. So it's quite late. So I know come, you know, when lockdown is over or a little bit eased, I will definitely be changing a few things in terms of how I kind of move through life, you know.
Like changing things because of like lockdown stuff, like how we travel and all that kind of stuff, or just more other things about yourself?
How I spend my time. How I actually spend my time, you know. Just really, I guess, spending time for me is reading the Bible, spending time with my family more, because obviously not being able to actually just drop by and say, hey, I'm here. I realized actually that's something I miss. You know, not spending time with my niece, and just overall having the space to kind of say, all right, what things am I doing that I actually like? What things am I doing that I don't like? And so it's just been I guess a learning for myself as well, because it's not something I expected. But I know a lot of people were struggling with it and feeling like, oh, this is really difficult. And a lot of people struggling with isolation. I don't mind my own company, so I'm quite happy to chill quietly and do my thing. I actually found out plenty of things to do because I was so busy before. It was just nice to be home. And the one thing that I really loved and I feel so blessed for is actually having the time to cook a meal properly rather than running into prep and picking up a sandwich. So that's been really, really lovely. And yeah, so as I say, a few changes coming. And yeah, it's good.
I'm wondering if we could talk a bit more. You said something that I've been like has been in my head for a while, which is like the whispers that our body gives us. And in one of the workshops, I don't know if you were at this workshop, but I asked people to talk about what whispers need to be screams in our body. And I think I'm going to flip it in this context and talk about maybe how do we not let our bodies get to the screaming point, but acknowledge the whisper. So in order to bring it back to myself, like the paralysis for me was, I think my body screaming after 15 years of whispering, honey, you're not doing well. This is not okay. You are not okay. And then the scream was the paralysis. So maybe can we talk through some ways or some, like, how do we get to reconnect with our bodies and be friends with it? And how do we can start paying attention to it before it shuts down on us? That's an extreme case.
Very extreme. But I guess there are a few things that you could do. I'll give you an example. At the end of some of my sessions, I get people to hug their knees into their chest. And then I say to them, and I want you to repeat after me, I love you. And just to say I love you to their body.
Okay.
And then to say I love my mind. And then say I love me. And the number of people that struggle to do that, you see them kind of going, wait, what? Say what? I'm not saying that. And they look so affronted, and they look, some people find it so difficult. But you're so busy worrying about other people trying to, I suppose you're so busy telling other people, I love you, you're amazing, etc., etc. But you never spend time to do the same for yourself. And it's really important that you fill your cup first, and then you have plenty, you fill it up so much that it's overflowing, so you have plenty to share with others. Or another analogy, which we hear all the time, put your oxygen mask on first before you try and help somebody else, right? And so it's really important that people actually acknowledge that they have a body, because there isn't this link. And at the moment, a lot of people, they've been talking about mental health. Oh, you have to be mentally resilient, this, that, and the other. And oh my gosh, it's really stressful. And then on the other hand, you've got the complete other spectrum. Oh, get fit, let's do this and lose weight, do this, transform this, da, 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 da. And it just, for me, it makes no sense, because they are literally like this. They are completely linked. So if you're not connecting the mind with the body, it just doesn't work. So even that idea of being able to say, I love you to your body, is when you do it so that it's right down to your heart, where your body feels the vibration of your feeling, to say, I'm feeling the love for my body. I'm actually feeling it. Because you hear people talk about their bodies in such derogatory ways. And I'll say, if I was stood, or if you had someone stood in front of you with their finger going, screaming at you and saying the same thing that you say to yourself in your mind, are you telling me you'd stand there and take it? No, you'd pull your fist back and go, get out of my face, right? Yet we sit and we have this internal talk all the time, this internal dialogue. Oh, you're no good, you do this. Oh, I'm always doing this. Oh, I'm no good at that. Oh, I do this, I do that. And I say two of the most powerful words in the English language are, I am. Because whatever else goes after that will manifest. So it's like, what are you putting after that? I am a great person. I am lovable. I am intelligent. I am the owner of a strong and healthy body. I am loving myself. I love myself. I love my body. I have an excellent mind. You say it enough times, feel it right down to every single pore, every single cell in your body. You're going to find it makes so much difference. And gratitude, you hear that all the time, right? Being grateful, because that actually scientifically changes the vibrations in your mind. But what I want to touch upon is forgiveness. Because if you don't have forgiveness for yourself, it's very hard to move forward, because they say the biggest stealer of joy is unforgiveness. And if you have that unforgiveness and it's sitting in your cells and sitting there, you can't move forward. Yes. So that's on a mind level, where you're saying, everything is connected with what's happening in your body. So you really think about how you think about your body. Think about your body like a 5-year-old child and treat it accordingly. You would not say half the things you would say to a 5-year-old that you would say to yourself. And then even when you're moving, it's about realizing that, okay, as I place my foot, as I sit up tall, does this feel right? Am I comfortable? So it's that whole awareness on an every moment level. Like I'm sitting here now, my core is slightly engaged, my chest is lifted, my shoulders are back. Because the way you move your body affects your mind. So if I was to hunch over and kind of, come down, you hear my voice changes straight away. Yeah. It also changes the way you breathe, because if you're slightly blocking your airway, you're not getting enough oxygen in your system, your body becomes more acidic, and long-term, that's a bad thing. And then apart from that, on the mechanical side, you've got your spine saying, hey, what's going on? And then your muscles are straining because they're not working right as well. If you want to see how to move, how to flow in your body, watch a child.
Yes.
Watch a child. They're always upright. They've got a nice erect posture. They stand tall. When they want something, they look you straight in the eye and say, I want this, mommy. I want that, daddy. Do you know what I mean? Or auntie, they will, and they're not afraid to, because they are untainted by society's idea of what they should be or shouldn't be. They are literally just who they are. Their identity is them. There's not, what's your job? What do you do?
Right.
Where is this? So yeah, I think start with that whole mental dialogue, very important, and just start to pay attention. Even if it's a couple of minutes, a couple of minutes a day is better than nothing. Or the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, just say, I'm so grateful to be alive. Thank you so much. I love this body. Just simple that. And then before you go to bed at night, thank you, my body, for functioning and being amazing throughout this day. I really appreciate you. You are wonderful, and you are perfect, and you're special. Because isn't it wonderful that you do not have to tell your heart to beat?
Right.
You don't have to tell your eyes to see. You don't have to tell your taste buds to function. Everything just works because that's what it does, right?
Mm-hmm. It's it really is our greatest ally. It really is like you said, it wants to be there for us. It wants to heal. It wants to be our companion throughout life. We're just somehow along the way forget the friendship, the alignment, right? And that's what the children really are. It's like my 3-year-old, I'm learning so much from her, because that girl is working in her own, like to the beat of her own drum. And I'm like, oh, this is what you do. I get it. And to use your words, it is this full embodied alignment of just being connected with all parts of herself. I wanted to, sorry, Nick, I know it's yours, but just quick, around the forgiveness piece. Yeah. No, because I
was going to talk about forgiveness.
Oh, good. So you and I are aligned with this conversation, but I don't even know if you, like the breath I exhaled when you said that was like on a cellular level, because I've realized through my own work and the work I do with other women is that it's easier for me to have learned how to forgive the abuser, right? The person who violated me, or other people, or the choices I made that were from a place of trauma, not a place of love. I could forgive the other. But the minute when I kept repeating the patterns, it was because I'm like, I never forgave myself for making those choices. I never softened, right?
I've got goosebumps all up my arms everywhere.
Well, when you were talking, I'm like, oh, here we go. I was gonna cry too. I'm like, here we go. Let's just do this. Because that's the piece that we've been waiting for, we all are waiting for, is for us to treat ourselves, like to love that 5-year-old in me, to say, Melissa, darling, you didn't know better. You were 5, man. It wasn't your fault. And I think that's the piece of, like, we take things as our fault for things that are not our fault. For other people projecting their own pain onto us somehow becomes our own unworthiness. And that's so bullshit. And it runs so deep in our cells. So the work that you're doing is like, and reconnecting with the wisdom and the truth in ourselves is how the actual change happens, and where the forgiveness can start to move and flow in our body. But it doesn't start without that acknowledgement of like, oh, the other people, it's easier. But with me, I'm gonna fight that, because maybe I don't deserve that forgiveness, you know?
And you do deserve forgiveness, right? And you do deserve to feel good, and you deserve all the goodness in this life. And it's as simple as that, but we forget.
Here's my thing on forgiveness, is that I can understand from, forgiving myself for, traumas from a child, and the things that I developed as defense mechanisms to be able to deal with that. But this is when you were talking about forgiveness, I was like, what about when I feel shame? What about I feel ashamed of the things that I did as a grown man, that to this day, I'll walk down the street and I get little shivers up my spine going, what was I thinking? And they're thoughts. And I have worked very hard at trying to to forgive myself, but also to forgive, like to ask for forgiveness for those things that I did, and then get forgiveness for other people, and then I can forgive myself. And I understand that, but sometimes I just have overwhelming shame, and this, I have not broken a law. I've not cheated on anyone. I've not done anything in years. I've tried to live a good life for years, but I still have some really dark moments of shame.
Yeah.
And they can bring me to, like I say, I feel it in my body. I feel that shame. And I again, I guess this is practice, but I suppose when we are adults, we do things that we are shameful of. How do we forgive ourselves if we can't ask for forgiveness from somebody else?
I think maybe the first step is actually realizing that you deserve forgiveness. Because maybe the problem is that you think you don't deserve forgiveness. And you're human. We make mistakes. It's part of life. You repent and you let it go. You just have to let it go, and you have to make the choice. And the one thing that you do have in this life is free will. And whether you did make a bad decision in the past, it's done now. You have to let it go. And I know it's not the easiest thing that you can do, but it might be as simple as standing in front of the mirror and saying, you know what, Nick, I forgive you. I forgive you for all the things you did. I forgive you all the things you didn't do. And I commit to doing better next time. And that's it. And there's something that you said when you said trying to live a better life, trying to live a better life. Trying implies failure, but you haven't failed. You are living a better life. You are doing better. You are being a better human being because you're in a different place. You are feeling, you know who you are. You know the being that you are. And it's really about being. It's always that saying of be the change you want to see. And so that's what you've been doing. You have been a different human being, and therefore you have had different results, and you are in a much better place. And so therefore, what more is there? Because if we were all to be constantly looking back at all the small things we've done where we thought, oh my gosh, I really shouldn't have done that. Man, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, that was a bad decision there. It could be the really small things, the big things. It really doesn't matter, You just have to find a way to say, I deserve forgiveness and I forgive myself. There's a really interesting process that a friend of mine gave me that I've done a few times. It's called the forgiveness process. The forgiveness process, and it's really powerful because it looks at, it's like these small statements of I forgive, I love, this, that, and the other. And you do this process, and it really helps you to kind of acknowledge the different parts of whatever it is. And you can do it for, for like an individual, it could be like for your parents or siblings, whatever. But what it does, it helps you to unhook from the energy associated around whatever kind of wrong that you feel you've done, whatever kind of wrong you feel, you feel that you need to be continually punished, but you don't need to. You just need to acknowledge it, step back, and that shame that you feel, it's, again, I think maybe it might be something you could try. I can send it to you and give it a go. But just remember that you deserve happiness. You deserve all the best in this life, and if you remember that, then it's fine. Because if you look at kids, when they do something silly, you're like, oh, and they'll do things that you really want to like smack them for, but then at the same time, you forgive them, right? Because you're a parent. What do? You go, oh man, that's so annoying. I love you. But at the same time, you just kind of go, oh, all right, fine. And then you forgive and you move on. But you don't hold those things against your child, do you? Right?
Absolutely.
So,
I think that there's also, we've spoken a lot around identity, and I think we can do 5 hours of a identity conversation, but there is also this attachment to the idea of shame or any kind of emotion that keeps us down, and our identity with it, because then what happens when we release from that is that we have to get to know ourselves in a different way, and that's terrifying. So I think that acknowledgement of like fear is also really important, because then, like, well, it might not be the healthiest, but I know who I am when I'm afraid. I know who I am when I'm ashamed, but I don't know who I am when I'm healthy and I'm confident and I'm loved, right? And there's this, I mean, Carolyn, maybe you can speak more to like how the body responds to like walking into the unknown of ourselves, and the possibilities of learning ourselves in a place of peacefulness and calmness, rather than this like rigidity in our body.
Yeah, it's I always think of the body, I always say to people that you are an iceberg. You know, there's this little bit at the top that you let everybody else see, and there's so much under depth, but you don't necessarily, even yourself as an individual, maybe you haven't decided that you're going to explore and get in there and see what's going on. Who am I in all these different situations? And I do say that it's a scary place to go when you look at yourself deep down. You think, oh man, okay, that is my character. This is what I do. And actually, during this time around lockdown, it's been a perfect time for a lot of self-assessment. But for some people, it's bubbled up anyway, and it's kind of been, wow, this is really scary. Why am I feeling like this? So there's anxiety and anxiousness. And it's, I guess you have to be brave enough to explore the unknown and just say, this is me. You know, if you've been lucky enough to have the opportunity to take the time and actually, I don't know, just maybe explore yourself a little bit, which, you know, I'm learning new things every day. It's kind of like, oh, I do that. Oh, I'm this person, and oh, okay. And some things, you know, I love. I'm thinking, okay, that's a really nice way to be. And then other times you're like, okay, I didn't know that was, you know. But then all the parts of you are all the parts of you. You know, the black, white, green, yellow, orange, all the colors of the rainbow, and all the shades in between, the grays and the grays, you know, they are all who you are. And you have to be able to say, okay, this is me, and accept that, you know. I think there's, like we were talking about permission earlier, that element of almost like trying to find permission to be yourself.
Right.
But actually, you just have to be who you are, and you know, not be afraid. And it's a brave new world. You have to go out and explore who you are, whatever that looks like. There's a well, I always think of the opposite of fear is love. And so if you start operating from a place of love, whatever you do in this life becomes a little bit easier, because you are going towards something as opposed to running away from something. Whenever any decisions are made in fear, generally things don't work out as well as you'd like. But if you've got love in your heart, and you know, you are following the joy, as it were, and really trusting that, you know, everything is working out for your good, then, you know, generally you're going to be okay. And it's not even about being super analytical or complicating things. As simple as, does this feel like love? Does this feel like fear? Okay. Or if it feels anything like love, then what is this? And you know, do you need to be in that particular scenario, in that particular situation? So shame does not feel like love, you know. So you have to say, you know what, Nick, I love you despite everything. I love you. You're an amazing human being and a wonderful soul. And you know what, the past is the past. You can't keep looking behind, because that looking behind is a distraction. And the only place you need to do is look forward. You need to let your light shine bright. And as long as you're shining bright, you know what? You can see in front. You can see where you need to be. You can see where you're going. You don't need to be looking behind, because the minute you look behind, wait, what is there? There's nothing, right?
Yes. Now we're coming up to the end of our time now. So I know that one of the things that I read on your website was that we are coming out of lockdown, and there was the word of anxiety. So as people, like, it's been 3 months of lockdown, what are the kind of your top tips to help people with this anxiety that they're feeling coming out of lockdown? And then we can talk about what some of the services you're going to be offering.
Okay, so one thing I remind people, very simple, breathe.
Yeah.
The amount of times people stop breathing. You worry, you just like, you know, that kind of It's an interesting one. A lot of people don't realize they're doing it. One, it's a posture thing. People aren't aware they're kind of doing the whole slouch in the first place, which is kind of making things here a little bit compressed. But people breathe just into their chest. So it's clavicular breathing, just into your chest. But actually, you've got so much more space. Your lungs have such a huge capacity. So you really want to breathe right into your abdomen, into your belly. And a really nice exercise that I get some people to do is I get them to lie down on their back, and you breathe and really breathe into your belly, which means you're filling up all the lungs, and you put your hands on your abdomen and you literally just breathe and you fill up your belly, and you start to think about extending your breath so it's nice and long. So I find that a lot of people start with maybe like 2-3 seconds because they're breathing really, really quickly. And it's kind of like a 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's super fast, which is not what you want. What you want is a nice, slow, steady breath, which allows your body to take as much of the oxygen and everything else it needs out of the air that you breathe in, so that it can then feed itself what it needs to function optimally. If you think of animals that live a long life, whales, and turtle, I don't know if it's classed as a mammal, but turtles as well, they all have very, very slow breaths. They breathe really slowly, they've got slow heartbeats. And when you breathe nice and slow, that slows your heartbeat down, which basically means you're extending your life and giving yourself a bit more time. So I would say breathe deeply in whatever you do. And if you find yourself in a situation where you're a little bit nervous or anxious and you're about to do something that's kind of nerve-wracking, I would say if you're standing up, really plant your feet and just stretch up through the top of your head and get really long and tall and feel that energy flow through you, and then breathe. But if you're sitting down, same thing. Get nice and tall through the top of your head. Imagine you've got a string that's pulling you right up towards the sky and really elongating everything. And again, just take that breath in. Fill yourself up, hold it for a moment, and then release it. And then just remember to keep breathing. So if you're finding that you're in a situation where you're nervous and you're anxious, and you can hear you're in the situation, you're right sat in it, and you find that maybe you kind of get that tunnel vision, your hearing starts going, go back to your breath and start going slow and just focus on whoever's speaking or whatever it is. And you'll find that eventually you're calm enough that you'll be able to be a bit more receptive to give a response, even if that response is, I hear what you're saying, or I see what you're saying, I feel what you're saying, I just need some time, and can we come back to this, can we revisit it? Because guess what, you have time, and you have the right to do that as well. And it all depends on what the situation is anyway. That is like kind of one tip I would say. Just remember to breathe in everything you're doing. However, when you're walking, when you're talking, stand tall, stretch up through the top of your head, and you'll find just that will elevate your moods. It will help you to breathe better and help you to feel more aligned.
Melissa, do you have one last question?
No, I was just nodding. Like, if there's one piece of wisdom, I think that's the most important one, is connect with your breath. Like, thank you. I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Now, Carolyn, what I'm going to do you mind if I put your website link on this Facebook page if anyone needs to get in touch with you? But you can also tell us too. What are the I know you're offering some classes and stuff. Do you want to tell us what you're offering people right now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I do one-on-one sessions, but I also do small group classes. So the classes have about 6 people at present. So nice and small. The maximum I like is, I would say, about 12, because that gives me time to be able to really give personalized verbal adjustments. Obviously right now, and it's all on Zoom, right. But so therefore it's verbal adjustments. Normally in person, I would get in there, start moving bodies and move things around, because I do like manual stretching and things like that, and I do massage and lots of fun things like that. But online it's more me saying, okay, move your foot here, do this, do that, and I take people through a series of different sequences. And no 2 sequences are ever the same, because we are all different people. Every time we come, we come as we are. we are never the same. There's always something that's new, something that's different. You know, you are the sum accumulation of all of your experiences. And so the smaller classes are just to give people that feeling of, okay, I'm not in a, you know, on a Zoom call with like 50 people where I have to now, you know, and if you feel like, oh, I can't do something, I'm just going to sit this one out, you know, there's no such thing. That doesn't happen in my sessions, because I'm like, okay, Nick, you need to, okay, stop doing that, do this instead, because that is too much for you. And we just dial it back, and then we'll build you up. Or I say, okay, let's try a different approach, because that's obviously not working for you. But it means that you go away with a sense of accomplishment and you've actually done something. It's like, oh, you know, I did that. Because people surprise themselves. They don't realize how capable they are. And I want people to just be reminded of that feeling. I obviously do work in offices as well. But at the moment, I've actually got a summer offer. So I'll give you the code that you can pop on as well, which will give them a bit of a discount for a session for the whole, well, next few weeks. They can come along to a session, and it's slightly at a discount for them. So it'll be fun.
Cool.
And what are your social media handles?
So if you find me on Instagram, it's Empowered Alignment, @Empowered Alignment, very simple. On my Facebook at the moment, Facebook are driving me nuts at the moment. I've been trying to change my name for my page forever, and it's not happening. So at the moment it's on there as Zimba Yoga, but it will be changing to Empowered Alignment. It's just trying to get all the stuff happening in the background. It's taken me about a month and it's still not done. They're not very receptive, annoyingly. But you know, if you just jump on the website, it's www.theea.life. So the Empowered Alignment.life, basically. So the EA.life, very easy, and you can make contact there.
I've put the link on the Facebook page. So Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I've just put the code in, so if you check in the chat, you can drop that in as well. They can.
Okay, I'll take that right now.
Yeah.
I'll take that now.
I want to pop by one of your classes.
Do, for sure. You're gonna work hard.
Hold on a second.
Why not?
Hold on a second. It didn't let me copy it. It's not letting me copy it.
Oh, really? I'll send it to you
text,
on
WhatsApp. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. And
Thank you.
Let's stay in touch, okay?
For sure.
It's lovely to have you. Thank you so much.
Stay blessed.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for joining us at the What's On at Elephant and Castle Facebook page. This Thursday at 2 p.m., we're going to be widening our circle beginning of the month workshop. So please join us then. Thanks everybody. Thanks Mel. Thanks
you.
Carolyn.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.